Hello, namaste. My name is Netra Kher. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession and RABT practitioner. Today's topic, today's topic is about understanding. I welcome you all in another episode of Netra Talks, and today's topic is understanding bipolar disorder from a patient's point of view. This series I'm starting, which is a new series called as Understanding series. So I welcome in today's episode Mr. Vijay Nallawala, who has lived experience of bipolar disorder. He is an author and he is also a founder member of Bipolar India. I welcome in today's topic, today's interview to you, sir.
Thank you very
Namaste.
much, Netra. Good evening, everybody.
Yes. So I would like to start this interview with the question. A question which is generally asked to every patient or every lived experience person. That when did you know that you are suffering from a bipolar disorder? How it was
Uh,
diagnosed?
yeah, Netra, often happens, awareness about mental illness is so low in India that the person or the family member does not know about what kind of an illness the person is living with,
Yes.
until the symptoms magnify to an extreme level. Yeah. So I was 40 years of age. This was in May 2003 when my symptoms had escalated a lot. Okay, so I was experiencing mood swings, a lot of erratic behavior, swings in energy levels. I used to sleep at odd times, wake up at odd times. Uh, my irritability was at an all-time high. So at that time, I was a single person. I wasn't married. So my caregiver was my sister Tejal, and she noticed that certainly there is something wrong with Vijay. It's not his normal self. This kind of exuberance and this kind of ridiculous thoughts that he's expressing, he certainly needs attention. Yeah, and she convinced me to visit a psychologist.
Okay.
So at that time, I was in a highly elevated mood stage. I didn't know what it was like actually, and in a sense of denial. So it was like I used to say that there's nothing wrong with me. It is that you people don't understand me. I'm a genius. I'll solve all the world's problems, and those kind
Okay.
of things. Yeah. So, but somehow she convinced me, all credit to her, to accompany her to the psychologist at Jaslok Hospital. And after hearing her for just 2 or 3 minutes, the psychologist realized that this is a severe case of mental illness and that I need to be taken to a psychiatrist. And that's what
Psychiatrist.
she advised us. Yeah. And straight away from there, we headed to Dr. Snehal Mehta's clinic at Santa Cruz Linking Road. Okay. And there also, and all this while I was talking non-stop, ridiculous stuff I was talking, my energy levels were so high, I was talking non-stop. So at the psychiatrist's desk also, I was, my thoughts were exuberant and, at a very, very irrational kind of conversation that I was having with the doctor. So in such a phase, it's easiest for the psychiatrist to pinpoint that it is a manic phase of bipolar,
Hmm.
rather than the other phases, which
Yes.
might be hypomania or depression, which need more investigation, can't be pinpointed. So that's how it was established. In 15 minutes, he came to the conclusion that told me that you have manic depressive illness, as the
Hmm.
condition was then known, clinically.
Hmm.
And my mania was so elevated at that stage that I had to be straight away hospitalized at Holy Spirit Hospital, Andheri, Mumbai, yeah, for a
Okay.
week. Yeah, because he felt that I would not be manageable at home. I would be
Hmm.
very resistant to the treatment, and the family would have a tough time in controlling me. Yeah, but when you say that, when did you realize this was the condition, right, Netra? Now,
Yes.
one has to understand my symptoms began at age 14 and I was
Oh,
diagnosed at age 40. So a
Such a big
26
gap.
years gap, such a big gap. See, it could be mainly due to the utter lack of awareness back then, right? Yeah. Uh, so what I was living with earlier, struggling with earlier was at age 14, 16, 17, and then again at age 24 or so, were severe bouts of depression. Yeah.
Acha.
Yeah. So what people thought was these were growing up symptoms, young age, hormonal changes and all that. So nobody paid attention to these struggles of mine. So they were very severe struggles, I would say. Now in hindsight, I can really notice what I was going through, and we have greater insight about all these things, right? Yeah, than
Yes.
earlier. Now, yeah, it was in that phase. But I wasn't even treated for the depression, mind you. Okay,
Yeah.
not all,
Okay.
nothing. So no treatment for any condition except just going on autopilot, you can say, yeah, self-management.
Yes.
Yeah.
It must be very difficult for the family, how they reacted.
Of course, that it came as a rude shock to the family, because at that point of time, I was heading an enterprise, named Frontline Communications. We were into audiovisual equipment rentals. We had top corporate clients of India. And there were question marks about our future now, that now how is he going to handle all this pressure after, this kind of illness, living with this kind of an illness, yeah. And of course, nobody expected this to happen. Firstly, that's why it came as a rude shock. Any diagnosis, see somebody is diagnosed with cancer, also it's a shock.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So any severe condition when we're first diagnosed, it is very difficult for the family to absorb. But one thing I would like to share on the positive side, that I only received love, care, and support from all my family members, even the extended ones.
Great.
So the shock was there, but they took it in their stride. So it wasn't that living in denial about my condition, as many people have to struggle with, where the family members sort of reject the diagnosis also, that we need to take a second opinion, the doctor doesn't know what he's talking about, that kind of an attitude. I
Yes.
never had to. So fantastic family support I received, and that helped me a lot in my journey going from there.
It's
From that
good that
stage.
you got a very positive feedback from your family members. But this is about the blood relation. What about how the marriage happened, as it was
Oh
after the
yes.
diagnosis?
Yes, yes. As I said, I was already 40 at that time. Due to certain reasons, marriage had not taken place till that time. I wanted to be financially well established. I had come up with a long struggle in my life. Yes, so that was part of the reasons. And then this happened, just when I was, prepared to settle down and start a family, this diagnosis happened. At that juncture, in my still unstable phase, I took another impulsive decision to switch to psychiatrists.
Oh,
The
okay.
psychiatrist who I had gone to initially was a fantastic psychiatrist, but somehow I felt that he was uh, not giving me that kind of a rosy picture which I wanted to,
Okay.
be told at that time, that you will be okay, and those kind of glossy words which we are so looking forward to as a relief. Yeah. So this doctor gave us an entirely different picture, that there is nothing such as mood swings. He
Oh,
was a psychiatrist who told us this. All right,
oh my God.
that you didn't even need to be hospitalized. This was a very normal thing. You'll get over this in a few months. All right, I'll assure you about that. So with that context in mind, he said that you should get married now. There is nothing to stop you from this. My sister was still apprehensive. This is how good a observer she is. Very sharp observer,
True.
and this alarmed her a lot. Apart from what the psychiatrist was saying, what she was concerned about was I ready in that situation? Because my mental state was not yet stable. It takes a lot of time to stabilize, and she sensed that I wouldn't be able to handle the stress. So either ways, we decided to go for it. Was more of an arranged come love marriage. We met through the formal processes that happen in India, but fell in love. But I was very transparent about all this at the outset. Even took my to-be wife to the psychiatrist before the marriage happened, for her to understand the intricacies of the illness. But you can imagine the psychiatrist who's painted this picture to me, what kind of idea he must have given to my wife, to-be wife. Okay, so initially the relationship was very strained. Let me be honest. Yeah. And I don't blame my wife, because see, ultimately it's only when one enters the relationship of marriage, then one realizes what it is to be the
The
spouse of a
intricacies of
person
it.
with a
Yeah.
severe mental health. Yeah, it's not easy from the outside perspective. Yeah, it's only when you start living with that person. So I don't, looking back, from a distance, everything, one can be very detached as an observer. Yeah. So I feel that she was justified, that if she felt that she was let down, and now she's saddled with a person who's going to go through this struggle for his whole life, because my struggle was quite severe at that time. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And the relationship was so strained that we were on the verge of marriage being broken at several points.
Oh,
Yeah. But if one is committed to a relationship, as one is committed to anything in life, we can succeed, Nitra. I believe that. Yeah.
definitely.
And today we are among the most happily married couples you will ever find. We have a lovely daughter as well. Yeah. So there is always there is the silver lining to that story also.
Yeah. As you said, you suffered a lot in life, especially in married life. But I would like to know about the bipolar condition. How were your episodes of extreme depression, and how you experienced depression, how you experienced mania? Mania, which is a elated stage, and depression, as we know, the sad mood stage. Can you just discuss about these two stages of extreme?
I would say my depressive, phases, mood phases would last, typically the severe phases would last for around a 6 months period or so,
Okay.
especially pre-diagnosis, where I was not treated also, right? I think they were the most difficult times of my life, when I wasn't diagnosed, when nobody understood what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Post diagnosis, when I used to get depressed, at least there is a little bit of support, because people know what I'm going through, right? Yeah. In the earlier phase, I myself wasn't aware that this is the condition which is causing this kind of uh, lack of energy, or demotivation, or that sadness or hopelessness. It was like it was a civil struggle which only I was having with myself, with nobody in that picture at all. Yeah. So I think that phase was the most difficult phase, where the depression part was concerned, my pre-diagnosis part in the adolescence and the earlier younger days of my life. Going forward, after mania, typically also depression comes with a, it is typically noticed every full-blown manic episode in many patients leads to severe depression subsequently, right? So that, in my case, you could say it was almost like treatment-resistant depression. Yeah, for phase of several years, I used to be depressed. Yeah, for
Oh,
several years. Of course, it would be varying in degrees from severe to moderate to
too
less.
mild. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, that way. But it would linger for years in that initial phase. It was a very long struggle in the initial period. And as I have been told by several psychiatrists, the longer the gap between onset and diagnosis, so the treatment begins later, then it becomes challenging for the recovery to happen soon. It becomes
Exactly.
more difficult.
Yes.
So one has to be understanding about that challenge as well. And when we talk about mania, uh, the one crystal clear episode was what I described, when I was diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And even prior to that, I mean, that is where it had culminated at the peak, and it led to the diagnosis. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
But there had been severe mood swings for the last 1.5, 2 years, which I can now identify in last
Identify.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a lot of indiscretions in terms of spending in business, buying assets which we didn't really require,
Hmm.
quarreling with my sister who was assisting me in my enterprise about business decisions.
Having a supernatural powers.
Oh, yes, that I was an avatar of Krishna, being sent to earth to solve all of India's problems.
This all you pay. This all you believed
I
at
really
that point
felt
in
all
time.
I really felt all that. And I became very unmanageable for the family, all right, because
Mm-hmm.
irritability being at sky high levels, and that aggression, I mean, very impatient, the rapid flow of thoughts. I mean, it's very difficult to control thoughts in full-blown mania.
Mm-hmm.
And when the family doesn't even know what the term of the illness is or what the symptoms are, you can imagine what they must have gone through, in this initial phases, yeah, before
So
diagnosis.
you were stable. You are stable now for a quite some time, right?
That's
Since
right.
how many years you are stable right now?
See, I would say from I've been under treatment for now 17 years, over 17 years now, from
Hmm.
2003 to now, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
2020. Okay. Out of that, the first 10 years were the most difficult years it was a roller coaster ride, even after the treatment. Yeah, it took a lot of time to stabilize. Last 7 years have been much better, and out of those, in the last 5 to 6 years, I haven't had a single mood episode,
Great.
which
That's a
needed
good achievement.
attention. Nothing. And I'm on minimal maintenance medication, so the side effects are also as good as non-existent, and my productivity, functionality is as it was before the illness.
Yeah.
So I got
So
focused,
on this
concentrated.
note, I would like to ask you, Vijay sir, that as you are stable, so what's the key of being stable? Like how your day looks like, what you do to, how is your recovery happening?
Yeah. I think it's more than what you put in one day. Of course, one day, what you put in every day, that's what defines your life also.
Exactly.
You have asked a very relevant question, Netra, because we just talk about the medical part. I mean, of course, that is the fundamental part, that you trust your psychiatrist and follow exactly what is, your advice to. But that apart, there is an important component of self-discipline, self-care, as we say,
Mm.
contribution from the self, to one's own
Mm-hmm.
recovery, a commitment to one's recovery. So in that, I have been very disciplined. I've been fortunate that I'm not, diverted from my path. So I do around 40 to 50 minutes of pranayam and yoga every day, 40 to 50 minutes of vigorous workouts every day, go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time every day. So I ensure I get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Uh, my diet has been designed by a nutritionist who knows all my health concerns, including asthma, which I also live with. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I don't look at these things as sacrifices.
Hmm.
I
That is
look at
very
these as
important.
the part and parcel of taking me to where I want to be, at my level 10 in life. Yeah. Why should I live at anything below at the top of my own potential? That's what my perspective is. Rather than I am compelled to do these things, how you look
Mm-hmm.
at these things is important, I believe. Yeah. Isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, as you mentioned, in that part of the recovery, I mean, one can't undermine the value of family support also. Having a
Yes.
nurturing family around you, that is also very uplifting and aids in recovery in no small measures, yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've had fine mentors also who have guided me in my most difficult days.
So there are many viewers who are watching you, sir. Is there anything, any mantra would you like to tell that this for successful recovery you need to follow this? Then you can like in a one line or that maybe if you follow this you will be successful in recovery.
Nitra, I would say not only for mental illness, even if one is facing any challenge in life, as I
Hmm.
mentioned cancer earlier, right? I think
Yes.
the biggest adjustment one has to make is the mental adjustment, before you
Hmm.
begin the whole battle. Yeah. So I call it the ABCD of recovery in short. Acceptance, A for acceptance, B for
Hmm.
belief, you're going to recover from it. C for cooperation and compassion, cooperation with caregivers and your professionals. And D for discipline. The discipline model I've already spoken about. Yeah.
Yes,
So mentally,
definitely.
if you have sort of adjusted to this kind of a life, then all these things fall into place. There is no resistance anywhere, I believe.
Yes. So, thanks a lot, sir, for your insightful interview about bipolar disorder. So, we've spoken about how important the diagnosis is. Then, what are the different experiences of yours about depression, about mania, what it means, and about the recovery and the ABCD of the thing. Can you please repeat that for us, sir? ABCD once
Sure,
again.
sure. So A, B, C, D, we call it because it's easy to recall. So
Yes.
acceptance, I mean, many people, as you are aware, live in denial almost through their lifetimes. Even
Yeah.
their
So A
families
stands
are
for
in denial.
acceptance, B stands
Yeah.
for
So
belief.
belief. So when I was down and out also, there was an inner voice which told me that I could recover from asthma. What stops me from recovering from bipolar disorder? So that
Yeah.
belief, it helped, kept me
C stands
motivated,
for
that
C
C for
stands
cooperation
for
and compassion,
yeah.
okay. So you're not in your journey alone, so one needs to cooperate with the people in your family, your professionals, all those people, right?
And
Because
D
we tend to
stand
get ahead of the game.
yeah, and D stands
Discipline,
for
which we have
discipline.
already,
Yes.
the holistic
Definitely.
approach, not quitting medication, trusting your psychiatrist, that's all part of that discipline,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Thanks a lot, sir, for your cooperation and compassionate approach towards interview. Yeah. Thanks a lot. We are at today's end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining in. Uh, it's good thing to share your views with others. So like, share, and subscribe my channel. Happy sharing.
Thank you very much, Netra.